Hello, everybody. My name is Colin Fernandez. I want to make a warm welcome to Geeks and Gurus today. I've got two very special speakers with me, and what I'd love to do is to just introduce them both. So I'm going to start with Dan. Just Dan, just give a quick introduction, followed by James about yourself, about what you do, and how you came to be at Sumo.
Yeah. Thanks, Colin. So my name is Dan Rice. I'm the VP of Professional Services here at Sumo Logic. I've been with Sumo for a couple of years, and I knew about Sumo for a number of years prior to joining. I always heard great things about the company, and I also was fortunate enough and knew a few people at Sumo before I joined, and I always heard quality things about the people, the culture, the product. And as a professional services person, that's what you want. You want to work with a great product, and that's what we have here at Sumo because it really allows you to do a nice, easy deployment and allows you to focus on delivering those technical and business outcomes for our customers.
Thanks, Dan.
Hey, Colin, good to see you again. James Kistler here. I'm based out of Chicago. I've been at Sumo Logic a little over 2 years. I'm the director of the business value office here. So I'll get into a little bit more detail about what that means a little later in the conversation. But very similar to Dan's background, I had known about Sumo for a while. I'd also known a few people here. And really the thing that brought me to Sumo was the people and the product, the culture here. Everybody talks about it a lot. And when I joined, I found it to be very true. Everybody is super collaborative. It's one team, everybody pushing for a single goal to take care of our customers. And we have a product that's amazing. It works well. And it always makes your job easier to work at a company when the product works well. It makes it an easier conversation with the customers. So the role that I'm in now in the business value office, I've been doing this function for over 6 years. And like I said, about 2 years at Sumo. So happy to talk about what we do and how we work with our customers.
Awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for joining today. It's been a very interesting last 6 months. As you know, I'm driving one of the key plays for Sumo around tool consolidation. And something that was really, really important for me was to bring you both together to talk about what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So, without further ado, the consolidation of many monitoring and security tools is hitting the rubber on the road. Today, we have many customers who are looking, and looking at the economic climate today and looking at ways to really help with their cost. The main one is really delivering valuable applications and driving profitable services at a very interesting point in time. I'm a veteran. I'm not going to say much about you guys, but I've been around the block for 35 years. And something that's really, really brought my attention is to what you said, James, about having good tools that deliver. And both of you actually said that. So I want to start off with really our professional services team. And then you had this up, but something that's really, really important that came to the fore is some of the key cases that you're working on and how you're helping customers with their migrations and their consolidations. So I'd like to begin with you just to ask you is what is it? Tell us a bit about Sumo and our PS organization and how it impacts our customers really focusing in on migration and consolidation.
Yeah, great question. And I'll start with when we talk about tool consolidation, that's an initiative that's going to drive cost reduction, simplification of tools, processes, maybe daily work activities, and even modernization. If your existing solution is no longer meeting the operational needs of the business. And then the migrations, those are the projects that support your overall initiative. And the migrations, you can go horizontal across the organization, meaning a great example is, hey, you're going to migrate all log analytics and security to Sumo. horizontally across all your environments. Or a vertical approach might be, hey, you're just going to do groupings of applications at a time. And a great example of that is, we see that a lot where there's a customer that's currently going through a cloud migration. And cloud migrations, typically, they would migrate applications and workloads to the cloud in phases or groupings. And it's that when that new grouping hits the cloud or is deployed in the cloud, that's when it would fall under the Sumo umbrella for security and observability. In terms of how does professional service, how do we engage to help our customers, is it's when you're about to undertake that tool consolidation initiative and you want to plan out what the migration looks like, it's all about starting with a proper discovery phase, right? What needs to be moved, what needs to be migrated, what no longer does not need to be migrated because it's no longer relevant to your business. And that's really key to a successful migration, is having that proper discovery phase and really streamlining how you go about your migration. And if I got another minute, I like to use the analogy of, hey, if you're moving to a new home and you're going to hire movers to move all your belongings from your old house to your new house, you're not going to tell the movers, hey, take everything from the basement and everything from the garage, you said move it all over to the new house and put it in the exact same spot that it was before. No, you're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to throw some things out. I'm going to donate some things, whatever it may be. I'm not going to move everything. I'm not going to pay the movers to pay everything. I'm going to filter things out. And then also the other thing doesn't make sense is you're not going to put it in the exact same spot in the house. You're going to look to optimize how you organize things. You're going to look to optimize how you live today, not how you were living a few years ago when you had everything, stuffed in your basement and garage. It's the same thing with migrations. Only migrate what needs to be migrated, what's relevant to your business today. And most importantly, we can help you identify, use that migration project as an opportunity to improve and innovate how you do things today. How do you streamline your use cases or your dashboards and searches? How do you potentially rethink your data collection strategy? It's all about, improving and taking full advantage of the benefits that the Sumo platform offers to you today.
That's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so just a couple of things, and then I want to get because this also applies to James as well. But I just want to touch on a few things that you just said that were really, really important. Throughout my career, we've had professional services engagements to build that relationship and trust and to deploy things well. I just want to touch on that element of discovery because, James, I'm going to come to you also and talk about the importance of discovery. But you also talked about, a methodology for design, data, and collection. Can you just say a bit more about that? Just maybe, a minute or so. But that process is critical. And it covers quite a few important steps. And I love this analogy, so we'll stick to the house because I live in Amsterdam and I'm living on some stilts in water. So I'm constantly thinking about, is my foundation good? Can you highlight that foundational sort of methodology and how that is so applicable today, Dan?
Yeah, I'd love to. First off, we take an enablement approach to our migrations and deployments because we want to make sure our customer is in the best possible position to own and operate the solution when the project is completed. And we do that through a very collaborative working environment with the customer throughout the project, through working sessions, workshops, enablement, knowledge transfer. Really want to make sure the customer knows what's being configured and how it was configured so that the customer understands, like I said, how to own and operate the solution moving forward. And like we were just talking about, that I can't stress it enough, the discovery phase is just super important to having a successful migration and making sure that you're streamlining your approach to how you go about the migration and really focusing on what's important.
Super. So, James, really great to have you here today to, gain and gather your insights and share them with our audience today. So, just pivoting off from discovery, business value. We've had an office operating for a while, and many of our customers today are engaged with us. So, can you just sort of provide an overview of what our methodology, our offerings are, and why it's so critical to this particular topic?
Yeah, sure. I had mentioned in my intro, I'd get a little more into what we do. And so if you're not familiar with a business value office or a value office, basically it's my team's job to partner with our sellers and our customers or prospects to make sure that we can make financial sense of an investment. So typically if we're, a customer is looking at us and they want to do a POV, that's kind of the technical track. What we do is a BVA or business value analysis, which is really helping you do a financial justification for an investment. So where it relates to discovery is that's where everything starts for us as well. It's all about understanding that customer. Where are they in their current state? What are the problems that they have? What are the pains they're trying to overcome? Where are they trying to go? And then critically understand, what does that current state look like in terms of metrics? What are the metrics that they're trying to improve upon? Is it, reduce MTTD, MTTI, MTTR, however you look at that? Is it reducing risk? Is it saving time, saving money? We want to understand those metrics, baseline where the customer is at today, so that we can come back, 12 months later and say, hey, you've been a customer of Sumo for 12 months now. Here's where you were 12 months ago. Where are you now? Did we get to the point you wanted to? Did you improve those metrics that you wanted to? And if not, in the true spirit of partnership, let's figure out why. Maybe there's an enablement issue, an adoption issue, something like that. So it's very important for us to understand the current state, which we do through our discovery. And in terms of our methodology, so we've done this hundreds of times with hundreds of customers. So we kind of know the most common ways customers get value from Sumo Logic. And so if you think about, the most common one is probably around like ops efficiency or security efficiency. Because you have all of that data aggregated in a single place, we make it faster and easier to identify issues proactively, troubleshoot them when they happen, whether that's a security event or more of an operational issue. We also measure things like improving your audit and compliance stance. So we can help you have that data at your fingertips when you need to provide it up to support an audit, things like that, or revenue protection. So if you look at uptime and availability of applications, every minute or hour of downtime is some revenue that is at risk. If we can help you improve the uptime, availability, and performance of your applications, we can help you collect on that revenue that you may be losing today.
Super. And if I can just sort of dig a bit deeper into your bag, you talked about value drivers. Something that I'm looking at here, and Dan also picked up on it, is we're bringing it onto one platform, and that's for me ROI and TCO. I remember when I was at IBM and at HP, we were always talking about value and ROI. I'm curious to know from your insights today, and I'll cover this also, Dan, with you, on say the Acquia case or many other examples, is what is specifically, driving the priorities today? Because digital transformation has been going on for all my life. It's every month, it's every day, but there's something happening now with modernization, migration that Dan talked about, the consolidation. Can you give us insights on what people are really looking for at this, in these times at the moment?
Well, yeah, we're talking about tool consolidation mostly today. And that's one we see in almost every one of the BVAs that we do. Most customers that we're working with, they're not starting from scratch. They're not doing nothing today. They're doing something already. And they're oftentimes doing that in multiple tools. And a lot of those tools have some overlap. So it is one of the other value drivers we see really often is tool consolidation. There's efficiencies a customer can get, not only from a license perspective because you're consolidating on a single platform, but there's also resource efficiencies that you get by now having all of that in a single place. So instead of having multiple teams running around looking at multiple tools and trying to correlate those events, having that in a single place allows them to be more efficient when it's most critical, when they need to. So when you're having some kind of outage or issue, that's when you really need to have those teams coordinated. So that's one of the ones that we see most often around tool consolidation.
And can I ask you one other question? I'm responsible for the messaging, so it's my only chance here to throw a few things out and test it against both of you and the audience. But a couple of things here. Um, just with regards to what you said, I throw this message out there. All your data, not all data is equal, created equal. There are different types of data. We our core is based on our our love for logs, but there's a lot more out there. So can I just ask you also, is what is that, what how are we helping customers? One of my customers, I'm meeting him tomorrow at Infor, talked about tiering, saving
Yeah.
money. Anything in there before I start picking on Dan in a few
Yeah.
minutes?
Yeah, there's a couple things there that are unique to Sumo that we talk about a lot, and these are really important for our customers. And Infor, like you mentioned, is really taking advantage of this. So the first part is credits. So our financial model is all based around credits, and the easiest analogy to kind of understand around that is it's like you think of an arcade. You go to an arcade, there's a whole bunch of different games, and you want to maybe play a few different ones, and you buy tokens and you can use those same tokens for any game that's in there. So that's kind of those tokens are our credits. So we work with the customer to say, hey, how many credits do you need? And then you buy credits, and you can use those credits for every one of our products. So it speeds up and simplifies purchasing. So you don't have to look at different units of measure, different licenses for different components of the tool. It's all based on credits. The really important thing about credits is you're buying an annual bucket of credits. So some other tools, might license you for data ingest per day. And if you go over that day, you get charged an overage. If the next day you're under that, you're kind of wasting your capacity because you've already paid for it. Because we're offering an annual bucket of credits, it takes out kind of that seasonality. So it doesn't matter if you go over today, you have a high week or a high month, because your seasonality, you will likely have a lower month, which sort of balances that out. So we work with customers to make sure they're appropriately sized, and then you don't have to worry about those day-to-day fluctuations. Like that's kind of the main benefit of credits. And then if we talk about tiering or data tiering, it's basically we offer 3 levels to put your data in. Each of those levels have different functionality and then also come with a different price, which is in credits. So if you think of it as a high, medium, and a low tier, our highest tier is for your most important data. As you said, all data is important, but it's not all equal. Some data is mission critical. You need it real time. You need alerts on it. You want dashboards that you're going to be able to look at that data all the time. That's the data that kind of goes in our highest tier.
Gotcha.
The medium tier is important data, but you don't need to see it real time. You don't have to have alerts, but you're going to search it very frequently. That's kind of what we put in that middle tier. And then our lowest, most cost-effective tier is for data that you want to have on hand for a long period of time, but you don't need it real time. You maybe not even going to search it frequently. It's going to be every once in a while, hey, I need to get at that data. Maybe that's for compliance kind of use cases. Hey, once a year, I need to be able to go search all of this. That's that most cost-effective tier. So our most mature customers are the ones that are appropriately choosing which data tier they should be leveraging. And honestly, most of them are using kind of all 3 of those different tiers at different combinations, depending on, the importance of that workload, that data source, or the use case that they're looking at it for.
Gotcha. So, just if I can come back to Dan, and Dan, I just want to also bring it down into, the what we discussed around the methodology for discovery and collection. You work with a lot of customers out there. And what I really, really want to sort of dig into a bit more is how have you migrated these customers? I'll be very open. There, I've lived with competition all my life, but in the cloud, whether you're on-prem, native, or hybrid or multi, there are a lot of vendors out there. There are lots of monitoring and security tools. So I'm curious to really sort of just go one stage further and ask you, can you provide us with some color on, yeah, how you've actually done this, and maybe use an example or two on what's most critical, and the insights that you can share with the audience here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks. And we like to take not just an enablement approach to our deployments, but in migrations, but also like to think a white glove approach. And that gets into something that James was talking about earlier: data tiering. Like, we want to get you on a path of proper data tiering right from the start, so that you're getting the maximum value out of Sumo. You build that best practice right at the beginning, and the professional services team works with our customers to make sure that we look at use cases and then make recommendations on what tier your data should go to based on the use cases that you're looking to use Sumo for. But in terms of migrating off of competitor solutions, Sumo is a good fit to migrate off of any of the competitor solutions, whether it's Splunk, Datadog, New Relic, and others. You have to look at the benefits that Sumo is going to provide from a platform perspective, but also cost reduction using our credits model. And the other nice thing here is that Sumo, we offer both security and observability solutions. So we're the ideal vendor to partner with on a tool consolidation, because we can work with you across all of your different use cases. Now, a great example of a tool consolidation initiative of one of our customers, you mentioned them earlier, is Acquia. They were going through their own modernization effort, and they decided that they needed to migrate off of their legacy metric solution. Excuse me. and in that, they contacted Sumo and said, "Hey, we'd like to use Sumo for metrics, or at least evaluate that," because Acquia has been a Sumo customer for a number of years, successfully using log analytics. And based on that success, they're like, "We want to talk to Sumo, and we want to use Sumo for metrics so that we can start our tool consolidation initiative." And again, it was driven based on cost reduction, modernization. A lot of different factors went into their decision. And it was a fantastic project. The Acquia team was phenomenal to work with. And I'll go back to the discovery phase. What they did a lot of things really well, but they did that discovery phase extremely well in terms of analyzing what they have today, and then only migrating what was still relevant to their business, but also taking advantage and using that migration project as an opportunity to improve and innovate. One example is moving, overall changing their data collection strategy, and at the end of the day, very successful deployment, on time, under budget, and it really is just a great example. And I would encourage people to take a look at our website. You can see the competitor solutions, I should say competitive comparisons that we've on our website, and how Sumo you can take advantage of Sumo, but also the case study for Acquia, a great example of a lot of detail around what they did, why they did it, and I think there's even a video people can get some details out of.
That's great, Dan. Thanks for that. I just want to ask you one more question on Acquia. What was really nice to be part of that, making the video and the content, was what I call the relationship. PS, professional services, and not just Sumo, there was quite an extensive engagement. Is there anything to highlight there on the importance of how we engage? Because it was like a very opening from day one. We got the ROI in, which I'm going to pivot over to James in a minute about what ROI really means. But something that struck me most was the trust and the relationship that was formed. So you said that they've been with us for quite a long time. Can you highlight anything there on the size of, engagement? Or was it quite an extensive team, or how much we worked with Acquia?
Yeah, yeah, and you nailed it with the talk of the discussion around relationship, and there was a relationship of trust there that extended beyond professional services. They had confidence, complete confidence in our product and engineering organization, complete confidence in our executives, complete confidence in how Sumo does business with our customers, and we knew they had a tight time frame, so it was a condensed project with a lot of different people on it from their team and our team, because they had deadlines that we needed to meet, and it was a collaborative effort. We had at any particular time we may have had 8 people on the project, and they had a lot of folks on their team, chipping in, very collaborative type engagement. And a lot of that was due to the compressed time frame that we're working within. But again, it was just really well done from a planning perspective. A lot of collaboration, a lot of trust. That's the biggest word I can take out of the engagement, is the trust and professionalism that both teams showed to hit the timeline in an acceptable manner.
Well, kudos to you and the team there. So James, just pivoting off, return on investment, total cost of ownership. I've just finished an infographic talking about taking stock of your tools. And we've talked about many tools out there, too many tools. But what's really hitting the road now is sprawl. There is a tool and data sprawl. There's fragmentation, just due to how, things have been operating. And the most important aspect of this is how to actually drive ROI and total cost of ownership. And maybe I'd like you to just not go too detailed into it, but to actually talk about something that we differentiate with when we talk about implicit and explicit ROI and TCO. Can you give us something there?
Yeah. So return on investment is probably the most common metric, that my team's looking at with a customer and prospect. Those are the most high level metrics they want to see. Like, hey, is this investment going to make sense for us? So they want to understand that return on investment. They want to see a positive number. It has to be worth more than the cost they're paying for the solution, or otherwise it doesn't make sense for them to look at that. So that's kind of the return on investment piece. What you talked about in terms of the tool sprawl usually rolls up into kind of that total cost of ownership. So especially for anybody that's using a legacy kind of on-prem tools, if they're only thinking about the licensing component, I pay X for this tool, they're not necessarily considering all of the cost around that. So there is the licensing and maintenance of other products you're paying for. But in an on-prem situation, especially, there's existing hardware that they have. So you have to deploy that hardware, you have to patch that hardware, you have to refresh that hardware. It's taking up rack space, there's power and cooling associated with it. You have engineers that have to spend time maintaining that. So you have all of these costs to actually just kind of maintain a solution outside of even using that solution. And when you consider that, especially for some of our large customers, that can be millions of dollars in hardware. When you look at a truly SaaS, born in the cloud and for the cloud solution like Sumo, like all of that on-prem cost goes away. So you kind of have to look at that total cost of ownership, not just the licensing, but what are all of the other components you might be maintaining to kind of have a solution. And that's what we build into our business value analysis, which becomes part of the ROI. That cost is a piece of it, but then we also look at the benefit of that. So across different value drivers, what is the benefit you're getting by making a move to Sumo? It's not always cost. A lot of the times it's cost related, but there's other value that we're quantifying in that business case as well. So we're balancing that cost versus value.
Awesome. So if I can just come back to Dan on, just taking that word value, it's a big word. Um, I often talk about value is both business and personal. So if you wake up in the morning and you want to go shopping and buy something, you need to look at the value in terms of, the examples that you gave and highlighted, James. But I just want to pivot this off, working with Acquia on many, many customers. I just want to, sort of come to, a conclusive point about the importance of professional services. The other one is, why is it so critical to think about this early on? And I think, just any highlights on something that's, again, I'm seeing when I talk to customers today is, what I call proficiency in your tools,
Mhm.
education. Many today, I just finished a case study, and the gentleman, he was an architect. He was very proud of his certifications of Sumo. And he said to me, he goes, I really want to be an advocate in your community, and I want to certify, my team. So can you talk a bit about how you see professional services evolving as more and more customers start to consolidate and migrate with Sumo? And lastly is what anything, highlights around fast starts, packages. This is not about taking tons of human time. This is about optimizing the best team to make it, optimal and efficient. And, maybe give us some highlights from Acquia or others on that.
Yeah. There's a lot there. So, yeah, for professional services, it's all about our main mission is accelerating time to value for our customers, whether that's a quick start deployment or a larger migration. And to be honest, not all migrations are large. Some migrations are fairly small because the customer doesn't have a whole lot with their existing system. So they're like, hey, I just want to start fresh greenfield with Sumo. And so they migrate over to Sumo, and it's fairly straightforward. It's not everything is a larger migration. But you nailed it also is with the training and the training that Sumo offers in terms of value. So customers have full access to our online training via their subscription to Sumo. It's part of the subscription to Sumo because we want to encourage. We don't want cost to be a roadblock to a customer team member having access to the proper training. So they have full access to all of our online training, whether that's self-paced training, online training, live instructor-led virtual training, and certifications. And so when you use that in combination with our enablement approach to our engagements, that really helps to solidify and ensure that the customer, yes, has the ability to own and operate the solution, but also they get that value from training and professional services involved. But and once a customer is migrated over to Sumo, then there's also the ongoing services that they may need help with. Some customers, they own it and they take it forward themselves. Other customers do re-engage professional services and look for additional assistance on enhancement projects, or they may leverage our premium support offering where they get a technical account manager that works with them long term for the duration of their life cycle with Sumo.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Very informative there. James, we're coming to the end of this. It's amazing how time flies.
Mhm.
I just checked the clock and I thought, my God, we're nearly there. So I just want to, sort of end on a couple of notes. And if I can just say is, if to the audience, which is both external and many of our Sumos will be on here too, is what are the top three takeaways of a BVA process? And you talked about the fact of being small or large. Value is everything to everybody. So what are the top three things that you want to highlight here on this session with regards to our topic around consolidation and what's really happening in the world out there? Anything? Last 3 points.
Yeah, for me would be to engage with your Sumo resource to help build that analysis for your customer specifically. Like I said in the beginning, that sets the benchmark for the relationship. We understand where you are today and where you're trying to go. and we understand the metrics of what's going to get you there and what you're going to measure success going forward. And I think you guys both touched on this a second ago, like value is different for everybody. So I could say, hey, here's what I think value is, because of Sumo. But for every customer, that's going to be different. They're going to have their top one or two things that's really what's going to drive value. So it's really critical to understand what that is for every individual customer, because it's always different. I mean, there's some commonalities, but everybody's going to have their top one or two to focus on. So it's really critical to understand that, and then make sure that you can quantify that benefit that Sumo is going to provide to get you there, so that you have that positive ROI. So that's, I guess I won't even, go into three things. To me, that's kind of the most important takeaway is spend some time to do that analysis. If you're on the customer side, make sure any vendor you're working with truly understand your current state, where you're trying to go, and the metrics you're going to use to measure the success of that investment or that project.
Clear. Thank you very much. And Dan, over to you. What are your last thoughts?
Yeah. It's value is a big piece of it, but from professional services, like I was talking about, it's plan and plan well, and make sure that you use your migration project as that opportunity to improve and innovate. Look at how you can do things differently and take full advantage of the Sumo platform. Don't just automatically assume that you're going to do things exactly the same as you were doing before. This is a great opportunity to innovate. Again, like I was saying before, it could be modernizing how your processes. It could be streamlining how you've configured dashboards and searches. It could be looking at how do I improve my data collection strategy. Maybe I want to move to open telemetry and open source. There's just a lot of opportunities here that Sumo can help a customer to work through, think about, and make decisions on.
Awesome. Gentlemen, I just want to say at this point, it's been a pleasure working with you, getting to know you through the last months on taking our tool consolidation solution forward. So looking forward to collaborating more with you. My 3 points to just the audience is to really look at our solution pages, our blogs, our case studies, and really 3 things: stop the sprawl, save time and money, and consolidate your tools with Sumo. So I'm going to end the session now, but just a big thanks, Dan and James, to you and your time, and thank you for today.